All right. Good morning. Welcome back. Our last and final day. You guys are the true diehards sticking around for the final sessions, but I can promise you it will well be worth it. Right? We always have a great discussion as part of our Ultra Clean Heavy Duty Summit every year, and this year, obviously, there is so much going on. The speed and pace of innovation and new technology that we've seen over the last few days is pretty unbelievable. So we're gonna ask a lot of hard questions for the folks that are building this product and this technology, as well as a panel of the folks that are buying the technology, and we're going to hear from them. How's it going, right? Especially, I think on a lot of the EV stuff. It's pretty new. There haven't been a ton of trucks out there, but we've had whatever it's been since May of 2019. A lot of miles being driven, so we're going to hear from the fleets and just hear from them directly what they've seen and what the feedback has been. So I'm super excited to get into it. We've got 3 panels today. We have our first one called Upstarts and Innovators, which is a number of the folks that are really breaking new ground and frankly shaking up the industry a little bit with some really neat new products and technologies. We'll then move to our fleet case studies, as I mentioned, and then we'll finish off with a panel of the traditional OEMs. So we're just going to jump right into it. First up, we have TJ Reed. He's the Vice President of Global Business Development for Meritor. He's going to moderate our first panel. We're thrilled to have TJ with us and Meritor as well. Meritor has been a longtime partner of ours at ACT Expo, a really great supporter. Had a fantastic looking booth. I got a lot of compliments to that booth. Did you see that thing? I was waiting for you two to come out under those lights, the light show there. So if you could please help me welcome up TJ Reed, the VP from Meritor, and the rest of the panel.
Good morning. Great to see everyone and welcome. Great to see everyone in person. As Eric said, my name's TJ Reed. I'm Global Vice President for Electrification at Meritor. So you would know Meritor certainly as the global market leader when it comes to heavy-duty drive axles, brakes, and drivelines. We've been serving the commercial vehicle market for over 110 years. Definitely excited to be here at the show. Proud sponsor of the ACT Expo, and thanks for your kind comments on the booth. It's been a great week. Very proud and excited to display our full portfolio of electrified drive axles under our Blue Horizon brand. So look forward to a great discussion today. So the team at G&A have put together a fantastic topic, as Eric mentioned. So we're talking about innovation, upstarts and innovators in this space. And let me start by individually introducing the panel, an excellent panel that's coming up. First, Thomas Healy, founder and CEO of Hyliion. So next up, Craig Knight, CEO of Hyliion Motors. Pablo Cosner, President, Energy and Commercial at Nikola Corporation. Gilbert Passon, CEO of Wrightspeed. And Patrick Duwan, Senior Vice President of Operations at BYD. So I'll give a quick overview of the topic, and then each of these gentlemen will have an opportunity to come up, talk a little bit about themselves a little bit more, their organizations and the innovations that they're bringing to the market. So for this session, no single segment of the commercial fleet sector has seen more excitement and focus on innovation and technology advancement than zero-emission heavy truck. Met with the challenge of meeting increasingly aggressive sustainability goals. Fleets are looking to innovators to create scalable zero-emission technology solutions for the heavy-duty sector. So in this session, we're going to take a deep dive with the industry's top upstarts and innovators as they highlight their groundbreaking technologies and provide their thoughts and perspective on what's next for the future of zero heavy-duty emissions trucks. So we'll kick it off. Thomas Healy.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good morning. And my name is Thomas Healy. I'm the founder and CEO. Just a little background on us as a company. Our mission is to be a leading provider of electrified powertrains to the commercial vehicle space. I've had the pleasure of meeting with most of you over the past few years here at the ACT Expo, but it's exciting to see how much this show has grown. I think we hit record attendance this year And for us, this was a huge trade show for us. It was the first time that we unveiled our new and improved hybrid system for Class 8 semi-trucks, as well as it was the first time that we actually publicly unveiled and let people see firsthand, up close, our Hypertruck ERX. We had the interesting experience of announcing a new product through the middle of COVID. So we were super excited that you guys actually got to see it here at the show. But the reality is the way we look at this whole electrification shift is it's happening, but we need to do it in a way where it's going to be easy and practical for fleets to adopt. And so for Hyliion, we see it as there's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And we're going after the long-haul Class 8 market specifically. And we see that for that market, you really need range extender solutions. And a few others on the panel here are also bringing forward range extender solutions. But the question is, how are those batteries getting charged? How are we actually producing the electricity? Where's the electricity coming from to actually be able to drive that vehicle? For us, we're taking an approach of starting with natural gas as a fuel on board the vehicle, and specifically using renewable natural gas, which can drive net carbon negative emissions profiles for trucks. Infrastructure is already built out, the cost already works, and the emissions already works, and it's leading, right? If you're net negative, it's pretty tough to beat that. So from that end, we see this as a great starting point for making this shift into line haul, long haul, Class 8 electrification, and then from there, we can target a future of hydrogen.
Craig? Okay, looks like I'm on. I feel like I'm visiting somebody in jail with these screens next to me. So I don't know whether that means I'm the one behind the bars or it's you lot. So thanks very much for the opportunity to join this fantastic panel. Eric and the G&A team have obviously put on a fantastic event here, and it's a great opportunity for Hyliion to essentially launch our US product offering. And so for us as a company, North America is the third wave of hydrogen mobility adoption that we've been a part of. The parent company was very heavily involved in fuel cell electrification of trucks and buses in China. And we set up Hyliion in early 2020 to take the experience from that first wave of adoption into Europe. And now we are launching Class 8 trucks in the US using a tried and trusted vehicle platform in the Freightliner Cascadia. And hopefully some of you had a chance to ride in some of the fuel cell trucks. We brought two to the show. We had one on the plan, but the list of ride requests was pretty long, so we brought two trucks. We see a fantastic future, and we're talking immediate future, for hydrogen to serve heavy trucks. We're focused in the near term on back to base, heavy daily utilization use cases. By focusing on the back to base opportunities, we obviously minimize the hydrogen infrastructure requirements. And while Hyliion can be more easily and readily serving the long haul with natural gas-based solutions, we're obviously a little more constrained on the fuel side. We're supporting the build out of hydrogen production facilities close to fleet operators and therefore demand centers on the molecules. And we have partnerships being announced gradually, one by one, on that front. And so our goal is to make it very easy for fleet operators to choose to go zero emission. The definition of easy is that the truck performance and the operation mode and the way the depot functions doesn't change when you go from diesel to hydrogen. That's the first thing. And the second thing is the cost structure has to be compelling. So by the end of 2022, we'll show some really compelling cost structures for fleets operating in California, we believe, down to and below the cost of operating diesel fleets. So stand by for that and get ready to put some very cost-effective hydrogen fuel cell electric trucks to work. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you all for being here. It's an honor to be part of this distinguished panel and as part of a very exciting industry. I'm the president of Energy and Commercial for Nikola, And we are focused on a fully integrated trucking solution that includes the battery electric vehicle solution and the fuel cell vehicle solution, because we believe that both have a very important place in customer needs. And also the ability to maintain the trucks through our dealer network, which we feel very good about as we're building that up, that we believe that this is going to provide industry-leading service solution and sales. And of course, the energy part, which is so important for these technologies. This is why we selected dealers that have extensive power generation experience, and why we have an integrated energy company within Nikola, is building out this infrastructure and doing it safely, reliably, and at target cost is so important. And as we all move forward, there are things that are going to change. It's great to be part of an industry that is so focused on lowering carbon intensity. This is a great thing for the planet. It's a great thing for the industry. And to do it with digital solutions that will drive more efficiency, better ergonomics for drivers, better impact on communities. But also, we can't forget that some things don't change and can't change, which is fleet operators need safety, they need reliability, they need to meet total cost of ownership targets that they expect will continuously improve. And so that's something that we are absolutely focused on. And at Nikola, we're looking at the entire value chain of how we do that, from purpose-built production, purpose-built trucks, dealers that can sell, maintain, and offer power solutions to customers, an integrated energy solution, and sites to either charge at customer depots or fueling stations. So we're a company of very important partnerships. We are continuing to build on that. We are working very hard, head down, focused on execution, and just very, very proud to be part of an industry that is so innovative and is going to deliver such great results for customers and for the markets at large.
Hi guys, very excited to be here. My name is Gilbert. We had a few jokes about how to pronounce my name, Thomas, but Gilbert, so for everybody else. Essentially, I'm the CEO of Rightspeed. So Rightspeed has been around for a few years, as some of you may know, but we have a completely new refresh management team since 2019. So we are very unique, a little bit compared to the speakers that just spoke. We are focusing on the heart of the trucks and the vehicles, which is the powertrain. We believe this is where the true value is in terms of optimizing the energy efficiency, which is key for the fleet owners and customers, as well as making a huge impact on the environment and the planet. And so by harnessing the physics of the vehicle and yet trying to capitalize on the technology that brings batteries and other extended options, we can optimize, both the energy efficiency and the emission, to the planet. So Rightspeed has been in existence for a while, as I said. We offer, actually, we're very OEM and truck and vehicle agnostic. We can actually work with all of my colleagues. We had a conversation a little bit earlier today. We can be great partners in providing awesome solutions. We specifically focus on Class 6, 7, and 8, specifically for what we call start-stop heavy frequency applications. So refuse trucks, transit, city transit buses, as well as delivery box trucks in an urban environment. We believe that our technology is very much suited for that. I come from Tesla, so I'm a strong believer of BEV. Spent 8 years of my career launching, Model S and other vehicles. But I strongly believe that in the truck business, and because I used to work for Mack and Volvo before, I know, talking to customers, full EV may not be the full solution for all applications. And I'm very glad to hear Thomas and Pablo and others speak about the fact that the future is going to be made of a mix of different technologies, most appropriate to the various applications. And as we speak to real customers, and some of you are probably in this room here, it's very clear that whether it's a full EV technology or CNG, RNG, onboard charger, or even fuel cell in some cases, I think we all agree that there is a lot to offer to this huge market here. So I'm very excited to be here today and represent Rightspeed, and have a great day. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Duan. I'm with BYD North America. It's really great to see everyone in person after almost 2 years. This is amazing to see all the people in person. BYD, we were founded in 1995. We are a global pioneer and leader in battery technology and also electric vehicle technologies. We're one of the largest battery manufacturer and EV manufacturer in the world. Our mission, we focus on clean transportation, turnkey solutions, including providing a full product line, like electric buses, electric coaches, electric trucks, forklifts, and also a monorail and people mover, clean transportation technology and system. Here in North America, we established our first office in 1999. We relocated our North American headquarters we're local, to Los Angeles in 2010. And we have since then set up multiple manufacturing electric vehicle manufacturing facilities in California. They're both in Lancaster. We have about 1,000 employees in the United States. Since 2014, we have delivered over 200 electric trucks mainly between Class 6 and Class 8 electric trucks in the field, and also almost 600 electric buses in the United States. So we're getting a lot of good feedback from industry. It's really fantastic to see how much the technologies and options from all of the my fellow panelists and their companies and their technology. We believe at this point for our industry to continue to grow, to convince the industry and our customers to move forward with zero-emission technologies, our responsibility is to provide the option, it's not, at this point, it's not about hydrogen is the best technology or battery electric is the best technology or whose brand is the best option. It's about options for the customer. I think our goal is to make the technology reliable and mature, to give the best options for the customer to move forward with the zero emission. I think that's will continue to be our responsibility and our goal in the next several years. Thanks for having me and BYD on this panel discussion. Thank you.
Great, thanks for the overview, certainly on what each of you are doing. So we'll kind of transition into some questions here. So we really kind of set up the questions in 4 key themes. First being, we're going to talk a little bit about just the market, the transition, or the macro factors specific to heavy duty trucking. And, I think we all believe it's not an if, it's a when. So there's a lot of questions and inputs that go into that when. So we'll get the perspective of the panel. Second, we'll talk really about the readiness of the technology specifically for heavy duty trucks. Certainly it's a much heavier lift in these type of applications. So the panel will give their perspective on what they're doing to be ready. We'll talk a little bit about unique selling propositions just beyond zero emissions. So that's all of our core mission here, but a lot of technology goes into heavy duty trucks, and the group here is working on a lot of great stuff. And then last, something that's unique to this panel, competing as a new entrant into the heavy duty market. There are advantages, disadvantages, pros, cons, and certainly have a unique perspective there. We'll reserve some time toward the end to also take questions from the audience. You can submit those through the ACT Expo app. You can download that from the App Store. Already getting some questions coming through, so that's great. So we'll go ahead and kick things off, and we'll start with Pablo. Really, Pablo from Nikola, participating in both battery electric and fuel cell. Let's talk infrastructure. Really, where do you see where we are now in North America? You participate around the globe. We're interested to know, certainly, from what are you encouraged by? What do you see where we need to certainly have additional work done? What milestones are you monitoring? How are you actively managing it to help drive adoption?
So first of all, I mean, it's an exciting time for the industry because this is not a nice to have type of technology. This is a technology that is being pulled by private industry, by government. Certainly, operators want to see vehicles that have extended life, lower overall cost. So the conditions are ripe. I'd like to say that all of us are at the right place at the right time, and we think at Nikola we've got the right business model to accomplish our goals. But it's going to require a lot of effort from an infrastructure standpoint to make the changes that are required. And in order to do it safely, reliably, and cost is critically important. And so we're all in the early days. And if you take battery electric vehicles, customers want to charge those vehicles at their sites. These are vehicles that typically are Nikola Tre. We've designed for a 350-mile range initially. These are day cab, daily use vehicles that go out, accomplish their mission, come back to home, and they need to be charged. Now, charging requires significant infrastructure as you take trucks that, in our case, are 750 kilowatts. You start to add up trucks at a site, that's a lot of power. And that's why we are highly focused on having an integrated energy solution as we work with customers. That's why for us, our dealers are so important, because they're not only selling these vehicles, and they're very well, highly capitalized companies. They provide great service, but they have deep power generation expertise. And as part of a customer solution, we're going to have to look at the fully integrated energy use. And in some cases, customers will benefit from microgrids and peak shaving opportunities to lower their energy costs. So this is a massive lift, and it involves utilities and power companies, and that's just to make sure that energy is there when you need it. And if the grid goes down, there's resiliency. And as we are able to build that out in an expeditious, safe, reliable, and cost-effective way, you're going to see stronger and stronger adoption. On the hydrogen side of the business for fuel cell vehicles, that's a pretty big shift in infrastructure. The great news is that hydrogen is front and center with governments because of energy independence, because it's a great molecule to deploy from a power density standpoint. And there's a lot of funding that's going into it, but that's going to require stations, in some cases some terminal fueling, but massive levels of production at scale. And that's also what we're focused on. We recently announced a collaboration with a great energy company in Europe, Open Grid Europe. It's a pipeline company that is focused on transitioning pipeline over time to hydrogen pipe. Why is that important? Because distributing hydrogen is costly, and doing it by pipe is going to help lower the cost of delivering the molecule to the truck. And so we're very focused on making very careful decisions and collaborations to be able to provide hydrogen at scale through ourselves or partnerships, or buying hydrogen where that's available, distributing it economically, and ultimately having locations like our travel center arrangement, where we're going to start here in Ontario, in places where it's good for customers, available sites to bring their trucks and fuel them up with hydrogen and go about their business. So there's a lot of work ahead. We all have to be very good about doing it from an industry standpoint. Safety, quality, reliability is key. We're all in it together. And that's the focus that we have in Nikola. But a very exciting time, right place, right time, lots of focus. And again, this is not nice to have. There's huge impetus, huge momentum here that we're all going to capitalize on and deliver great solutions.
Great, thanks. And we'll extend that question to Patrick. You know, you're at BYD, you're focused on battery electric. So give us a perspective on what you're working on with your customers, your focus, your partners when it comes to infrastructure.
Certainly. Focusing on the battery electric infrastructure is definitely the key to continue to generate the momentum, and in terms of volume, to get the scale up in the industry. We've made, I think, I'm talking about the industry, we've made pretty good progress in the past several years from the industry standard. I think the industry get more aligned in terms of the charging protocol and standard around, it's called SAE J7072 CCS1 standard, which allows our customer to scale up their charging infrastructure, not only for a specific project, but also for their future growth and future expansion of their zero-emission fleet. And also, we have involved utility partners, which is a critical stakeholder in this effort to get more involved early on, to be proactive, to support the power needed, connection needed, communication needed to get the fleet deployed. That's critical. From technology standpoint, Pablo mentioned resiliency. I think we've seen a lot of momentum and significant attention from the industry about vehicle-to-grid technology or bi-directional technology, which would uniquely allow battery electric technology to be a resiliency or a mobile energy storage for our customer to have the benefit to have a resilient energy storage with their fleet, but also getting economic benefit from being able to send power back to the grid. So it's been coming along very well in the past several years in the battery electric industry.
Great, thanks. And I think as we kind of transition a bit in the, I'd say in the headline of adoption, and Craig, this one's for you. When we talk about total cost of ownership and cost-effective hydrogen, think a little bit about kind of the chicken and egg and how we manage that as an industry. We have a nascent technology, lower volumes. How do you get to scale to bring costs down? How are you working on that and thinking about that at Hyliion?
Sure. Firstly, obviously, electrification of all kinds is a good thing to get off fossil fuels. And battery electrification or hydrogen electrification, obviously there are choices that are made by the customers based on their own use case, availability of electricity, price of electricity, all sorts of stuff. And as Pablo said, it's a case of horses for courses. Now, on the energy infrastructure side, it's our view that hydrogen is a fantastic enabler of energy independence, energy resilience, and enables electrification without impacting the grid. Last time I looked, the California grid had some issues, and I don't think they're being fixed overnight, and it makes sense to us to electrify independent of the grid, and that's what hydrogen does. So you can make hydrogen from almost anything, and in fact, we recently announced one of our partnerships around hydrogen from municipal waste, and this provides a fantastic cost structure and a dramatic negative carbon intensity fuel. So this is a great thing. You're abating a whole bunch of methane that is going to find its way into the atmosphere if you don't do something with that waste. And it provides cost structures to the customers that make the trucks far cheaper for every driven mile on hydrogen than they would be on either California electricity prices or California diesel prices. So in our view, by focusing on high daily usage, back to base operations, where we can support those demand centers for the vehicles and the molecules with local production models on hydrogen, this will be something we can do incrementally, we can do very successfully, and it scales location by location. It doesn't scale as a single initiative. So we prefer to eat the elephant one bite at a time. And that elephant can be eaten one bite at a time if you create viable, commercially competitive hydrogen supply scenarios supporting fleet operations close by to the location of generation and fantastic economics on the fleet operation. The total cost of ownership can and will be extremely attractive.
Great, thanks. And Thomas, certainly I'd love to get your perspective from Hyliion's technology, your business model, the duty cycles that you're catering to, perspective on, infrastructure has a different meaning to you, and certainly not only how we look at the regulatory side of things, incentives. What are you doing at Hyliion? What are your thoughts on the perspective there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the theme that every single answer has addressed here is infrastructure is the question mark. The truck technology is not going to be the question mark. I fully believe that we're going to be at a point where the truck technology is ready. We'll have BEV trucks that can do long range, but we're not going to have an infrastructure that's able to support actually charging those vehicles. Similarly, when you look at hydrogen, where's the infrastructure to actually refuel these vehicles? And that's going to take time to build out. That's not going to happen overnight. You need to get lots of permitting in order to build a station. You need to figure out how you're actually going to produce the hydrogen. And the grid in electricity generation is a real problem, right? I mean, Craig, you hit the nail on the head. California is already having problems keeping lights on at home, keeping your refrigerator running, let alone putting trucks on the grid. And the reality is if you want to electrify all the trucks in California, I was told at this show that you need to double the capacity of the grid in California in order to support that. And that's not something that's even being embarked on and worked on. That hasn't taken place. So the reality is we need to be really smart about how this electricity is going to be generated. And we need to be practical about it as well, right? There was a panel that happened the other day where one of the speakers was saying, well, why don't we take renewable natural gas and we will use that to actually make hydrogen? Our pitch as a company is, well, why don't you just take that renewable natural gas, just put it in the truck and produce the electricity on board the vehicle in order to drive it. And from an ecosystem standpoint, that is a much more efficient solution than going through multiple phase changes of energy in order to be able to produce electricity. So from that standpoint, our pitch is, why don't we utilize the already existing infrastructure out there, over 700 stations built out across North America for Class 8 trucks or for semi-trucks, and utilize that to refuel the vehicles with renewable natural gas. Last year, we surpassed over 50% of the natural gas sold at these stations already came from renewable sources. So RNG is a real fuel source. This isn't like 1 or 2% of the market. And one of the fun stats out there is also there are just as many RNG production facilities being permitted and starting build right now as are already in existence. So we're going to see a tremendous amount of RNG production coming in the near future. So just use that right on board the vehicle, produce the electricity, and get all the benefits of electrification without the downsides of infrastructure.
Great, thanks. I'd like to get into actually the truck technology itself now, and as we kind of change gears here, and I'll kind of give this one to you, Gilbert. You have experience in both pass car and on the heavy truck side, so you have a perspective of both and
Correct.
what's required of each. So give us a view of what you're doing at Wrightspeed, really, to meet the demanding applications in the heavy duty space from your development, validation. How are you working with your customers in that regard?
Yes, absolutely. I have both experiences, and I have to, before I go into the detail of Wrightspeed, I have to say that it's quite two different markets if you talk to customers of passenger cars versus heavy-duty trucks. And, the world of trucks and buses is actually more complex than cars. It is, really. And every truck has a different duty cycle, different application. Every fleet owner have their own kind of characteristics. So I'd like to replace the debate about, it's not so much, what we're trying to do is not so much about electric or hydrogen or whatever, is actually going back to the full ecosystem globally and talk to the real customers and the practical applications that they need to fulfill. And that's what we do at Wrightspeed. And the solution is quite diverse. If you talk to a city transit bus in Middle East, okay, they have a certain context. They have to maybe thousands of buses in their cities, but they don't have any hydrogen infrastructure necessarily, or even, grids, infrastructure installed. So when we talk to them, we are able to come up with a custom solution that actually makes sense to them in terms of quality, safety, as you mentioned, reliability, TCO, right? And propose maybe some kind of a onboard charger that actually makes sense. It's not zero emission necessarily, but it's very close to near zero emission, right? If you talk back to the US, you have people, and Thomas, I totally agree with you. There are fleets, huge fleets of trucks here, for example, in the refuse business and others that are already equipped, 60% or 70% of their trucks with CNG and RNG. And RNG is actually super clean and super available from waste. So we, for example, talking to these customers are developing a technology with a RNG CNG turbine that actually is super efficient in order to fulfill these customers' requirement within their infrastructure. Equally, we are partnering. We just announced a partnership with Matthews Specialty Vehicle, which is on the East Coast, and these guys do a variety of product, including special vehicle for medical or military and other kind of application. And essentially, they have special needs too. Those vehicles go to places there's no grid. They might be stuck in the middle of the desert somewhere or in the middle of a yard, and they need to be, sniffing different things for different purposes, and they need to have the ability to be idle and yet completely independent. So I think it's very important when we talk about reaching the zero emission for the planet, not only for the US, right? It's very, very important to understand the actual context of the customers, the infrastructure in place, what is the best path to go to zero emission. And we believe Rightspeed is a great ability to be flexible and agile in showing and producing solutions that can fit very well with other partners to get there. And so in terms of validation, you asked me what we do. So we obviously a little bit, how can I say, not as advanced in terms of funding and size as some of the panelists here, but we're doing great things to validate. So for example, we're partnering with ORNL, the Oak Ridge National Lab, which is a very reputable company, and we talk about our power electronics with these guys. We are send our bus for the Jordan, for example. We're going to send it to NATC, Nevada Testing Ground. We want to test a full vehicle with a full ability to make sure that our components stand, rough terrains and gradability and all kinds of and dirt and sand and all the things that they would see in the Middle East, and on and on, right? So really, it's very important to do the validation and quality thinking upfront, listening to the customers, taking those requirements back into the design, making sure that whatever solution you put to the market is safe, but also reliable and durable. Because those truckers and those fleets, what they want is something that works reliably. And so that's a very important fact, and that's what we focus on.
Great, thanks. And kind of extend that same question you, Thomas, as you get ready to launch your Hypertruck, just maybe give perspective on the role of customers in your design process and the feedback loop that you're taking from them to actually put the product on the road.
At the end of the day, customers need to be thrilled and satisfied with the technology. It needs to make economic sense for them to adopt this. And that's one of the things that we can't lose sight of, right? And so from our end, as we're going through the design, the development phases of getting trucks deployed out there, it all comes back to what do the customers need to see in operations in order to make this work. We put together a fleet council with some of the leading fleets in the industry so that we actually could bring fleets along the product development cycle with us and get their feedback along the way, so that when we actually do start shipping the Hypertruck out to fleets, we know that it's something that's going to meet their needs, as opposed to the last thing we want to do is deploy a product that nobody wants to adopt, right? So, I think we're sitting in this is actually a fascinating thing if you think about it. You've got all very young and innovative companies that are sitting here to try to disrupt and evolve an industry. And the coolest part of it, when you kind of collectively add it up, you have billions of dollars sitting on our balance sheet, just on this panel alone, to go make that happen. And so what's a really interesting thing is that we're all taking a little bit different of an approach. Now, I wouldn't say any of our approaches are wrong, right? The reality is, though, is that each of our approaches is going to have a market opportunity that it makes sense for us to deploy trucks. It does not make sense for, to put an electric truck in an area where a fully electric plug-in truck in an area where the grid can't already support it. Or it doesn't make any sense to put a fully electric truck in a place where you have to turn on a coal-fired power plant in order to recharge that vehicle. Similarly, for hydrogen, you can't put it in an area where there isn't hydrogen production, or you can't make green hydrogen, right? So we have to be really strategic on how we deploy these vehicles, and ultimately we need to listen to our customers to see how it's going to work. And the last point on all that is we need to have solutions that can actually save fleets money, because as you all know in the audience here, this is not the passenger car world. The passenger car world is going to make a decision on buying a car based on emotions. It's going to be, oh, I love the touchscreen in this car. The acceleration is awesome. I have ludicrous mode, right? I mean, it's all those things that's what's going to make you buy an electric car. The reality of all the people sitting at this show, though, is that is an asset that's a revenue generating vehicle that's designed to make profit for an organization. And if we can't help them make profit and we can't be better than diesel, then we're not going to have a winning solution.
Yeah, and fleet safety managers love ludicrous speed, from what I understand. But
So fun fact,
Yeah.
you put a video out of a truck doing a burnout. No fleet wanted to see it. They were like, do not show my drivers this. The last thing I want to do is have fleets or have my drivers doing a burnout in an 18-wheeler.
sometimes you just got to know you can do it, though. That's part of
I
the
just
fun.
want to make a point on safety. We've had a lot of experienced drivers drive fuel cell trucks in the last few months just to get their feedback. And something we never even thought of. One of the drivers finishes his drive, comes back and says, I feel much safer in that truck. We didn't even know what he was talking about. But he was towing a trailer with a pretty heavy load on it, and he was able to cross intersections and merge in traffic in a way that he's never been able to do in a diesel truck. He said, trucks cause accidents. He said, I feel really safe in this truck, and I feel I'm not going to cause an accident. I can cross that intersection so much faster towing this load with a fuel cell truck or electric drive. It's basically the electric propulsion that gets you there, right? So driving an a heavy vehicle with electric propulsion, it's very different for these drivers. And these people have been driving diesel trucks for some of them up to 45 years. And we've been staggered by the reaction to the way that electric propulsion is received by these drivers. Because a fuel cell truck is an electric truck using hydrogen for range. And the performance is just like, battery electric. So they usually come back saying they don't feel like they're driving a truck anymore. They feel like they're driving an oversized golf cart.
Yeah.
But safety is
It's
huge.
important. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
Hubert, yeah.
so I'd like to add to this. I totally agree. And for example, we talk about safety and electrification and how electrification empowers safety. So in our case, for example, we have a unique electric axle that actually controls the right wheel separately from the left wheel. And then some people have been asking me recently, some that are in this, why the heck do you need that, right? When you think you have an 18-wheeler with 80,000 pounds behind, and then an icy road condition or sandy road condition, and this truck driver you're talking about is now feeling that his truck is going to do jackknifing, you want the ability to control the right and left, and also have the ability to the tire to kind of like grip correctly so that you can actually self-correct the truck. Specifically, if you have dual axle, you even have front and rear 4 independent wheels. So electrification is a very powerful way to enhance the safety of the drivers and the safety of the rest of the people that are on the road, right? Some of us here. And so and then not only that, but also the ability to upload data from the actual truck, the powertrain itself, and how to optimize that data to make it even safer and cost-effective over time. So electrification is a wonderful tool to enhance the overall efficiency of the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, go ahead, Pablo.
No, I'm so happy that the panel is taking this this topic, because if you survey customers' fleets, the number one point of interest for them is safety. Now, when they're talking to us, it's price, but safety is at the forefront of everything that they do. And so the headline in the businesses that we're in is zero emissions of the vehicles. But the beauty of this is the advancement in the technology that makes it safer for the driver, and also ergonomically, the experience, fatigue, which ultimately impacts safety, reduces, because these are quieter environments, there's less vibration, they're more user-friendly, and as all of you know, drivers are in short supply. And so fleets are interested in this technology. You add an additional factor is, do our drivers like being in these trucks? And one of the things I love to do is to talk to drivers, and I'm in there in the cab, and I'm sure my peers do the same. I say, hey, it's just you and I. And of course, now I'm talking to a group here. But I say, hey, tell me the truth. You know, tell me everything. I want to know. I want you to tell me what's good. I want you to tell me what you would change. And, you know, the theme consistently, and this applies to electric vehicles, whether they're BEV or fuel cell, is, you know, I've been doing this for 20 years. This is amazing. And it's so hard after drivers spend time in these vehicles to get them back into ICE vehicles, because the experience and the advancements of this are so good beyond just the emissions part, which is so important. And actually, I think it's just a statement in terms of the maturity of, yes, we're up and coming companies, but we're all thinking about it the right way, which is we're all talking about safety, durability, total cost of ownership. These aren't science projects. You know, this is focused on what the industry needs. So I just can't be more thrilled to be part of this panel and see all these companies thinking about things the way we should be.
Yeah, and that's great. And I think I want to kind of double down on that a little bit more. You know, just outside of, you know, clean modes of propulsion and the efficiency that comes with it, that unique selling proposition and all. And I guess I'll ask this to you, Patrick. You think about that, and that feedback from the driver. That's, for me, in my experience in this industry, that is a gratifying part of the job, right? The feedback that you get from drivers, and Pablo's right. Everything that I've seen and I've talked to, they're very passionate people, and it's very positive, right? So talk a little bit about what BYD is doing outside of just clean propulsion. You know, you have your full vehicle manufacturer. Safety is one aspect of it, your full value chain. Talk a little bit more than just clean emissions.
That's a great topic. I think it's really good to see our panel. We could focus on reliability and safety of the new technology, because when we go out to talk to our customers and the end users, the industry is here for years, many years. What's new here is the propulsion, is the new technology. So when we talk to our customers, a lot of times our customers ask about the safety, the design, why you choose this chemistry over that chemistry in terms of battery technology. Educate the market about the decision made, why we chose iron phosphate battery application, because of safety, because of reliability, because of life cycle, all those benefits. So I think for new technology, getting the customers involved and getting the information to the customer so they understand what's new and why this is safe, why the technology and the products are reliable, so we can move forward. It's crucial. So it's a really good discussion about around safety and reliability of new technologies. Going back to your question, TJ, I think on top of the propulsion system, definitely, again, our goal is to provide a turnkey solution, not only on propulsion, not only on battery technology, but we want to be a single point of responsibility. Our goal is to be the single point of responsibility to our customers. So we've been focusing on safety, reliability, technologies, and working with our suppliers and local partners to make the whole product and whole chain of the communication as simple as possible. And right now, when we talk about total cost of ownership, this is a challenge. This is a chicken or the egg question to a lot of our customers. So what we've been working on is to work with some financing partners to really put together some innovative financing and leasing options to the market. So we need to think outside the box. We need to provide innovative options for the customers to feel comfortable, not only from financial standpoint, but also from the product and technology readiness standpoint.
Yeah, sure. Gilbert?
Yeah, I'd like to add a little bit of details about this TCO and then the upfront cost. So when you really talk to customers and fleet owners, and, you know, of course, no one can turn a switch on and say, okay, I have 30,000 trucks, I'm going to buy a new Nikola truck or a new Hyliion truck and times 30,000, right? It's not going to work this way. So I think, though, there's a lot of financing, I concur with you, that is being put in place, and we have some agreement with some partners, financial partners, to do that helps, right? But also the TCO reduction, when you think about it, I was talking to a CEO of a big fleet recently, and essentially, he said to me, the upfront costs, I don't really care that much, and I have a way to finance it. What I do care about is how much TCO reduction can you give me? In our case, for example, depending on the application, anywhere between 5 to 25% TCO reduction over 7 years. That spoke to him a lot more than I can provide financing for your upfront cost. Because over the total mileage and total trucks that he had, this is a huge saving for his company, and yet satisfy the ESG compliance that he has to he wants to satisfy. The other factor I wanted to quickly introduce is we should not forget that there are more existing vehicles on the road than new vehicles coming in. So we need to offer a great solution to convert those existing vehicles into something cleaner and basically more economical. We believe at Rightspeed we can do that by partnering with various partners. And so it's not only about new vehicles, right? It's very important that we address the issue of how to convert this vehicle into a cleaner, for saving, for the planet, and for the good of some countries, basically, that cannot afford, a lot of these new vehicles anyway. So this is where I believe we can contribute also.
Great, Thomas?
So TCO is something we really need to talk about. And I'll lead into this with saying, like, Craig and I were chatting about this yesterday. And the reality is like, even though all of us are sitting up here and technically we are competitors, at the end of the day, we want all of each other to succeed here because that's what's going to make this industry transition into being a cleaner contributor to the environment. But we really need to have an honest discussion about TCO and how we're going to make this work, because I think there's a general perception that, or realization from a fleet standpoint, that you're going to have to hold on to assets a little bit longer so that you can really drive a payback and see a benefit from having a electric vehicle. But I'll share kind of where we're approaching it from a natural gas standpoint. And then we've got hydrogen experts and we have BEV experts on this as well. And we got to talk about how are we going to do this? So with natural gas, we're dealing with a fuel source that already is less than the cost of diesel. So that allows us to increase the upfront cost of the truck a little bit over diesel, but then we're going to drive a benefit because you're going to use a fuel source that's less expensive than what diesel is. And that's what's actually going to get you to a point that you're better off than diesel. But with hydrogen and even in some instances grid electricity, we're not there today. So how are we going to get hydrogen to a point where it is less than diesel? What does that transition look like? And Craig, Pablo, how are we doing that?
For us, that's a fair call. For us, the focus, as I said before, is back to base fleets. We tackle the TCO equation fleet at a time, frankly. I'm not going to try to boil the ocean on meeting global TCOs, but I can definitely help people meet their TCO challenges locally based on a local fuel supply scenario, local back-to-base fleet operation. And over time, these hubs become very strong nodes of a future network, but we don't create the network from the beginning. The network's a consequence of successful high utilization hubs. So these hubs have very compelling economics as an investment, and we have many people willing to help us put them up, and they ensure that the fleet operations themselves have compelling economics. So to your point, Thomas, you can drive these attractive TCOs even with a slightly higher capex of a vehicle, for example, or sometimes substantially higher capex, if your OpEx is dramatically lower. And fortunately, to Patrick's point before, there are many financing options to provide, monthly OpEx type of arrangement on a truck, so that you don't have to outlay the higher day one capex. We see fantastic potential for hydrogen hubs to deliver really strong economics here in the next 1 to 2 years. It's not 10 years away. We're building them now.
So where do you think like hydrogen costs are going to get to?
$4 and under is what you want in the vehicle, a kilo. And
One-
then
one comment-
that provides slam dunk economics in a fleet operation.
One common question we're seeing from the audience here, with hydrogen fuel cell not being monitored by a public institution, how would the price be monitored?
With what, sorry?
That general question, a few of those in that regard. So no public monitoring of a public institution of the price of hydrogen. So how would the price be monitored?
Monitored for what purpose?
I guess for,
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. And Thomas asked a lot of good questions. There's a real opportunity to talk about something I agree with Craig. I think, first of all, there are ways to immediately reduce the cost of hydrogen today. And then this is before you get to scale with a lot of innovation and efficiency of devices like electrolyzers and technology with different sources of how you produce it. In the case of Nikola, two examples I can speak to today. We have a very favorable electricity rate with Arizona Public Service, which is a utility, which comes from a very innovative way to get electricity, which can be a very significant part of how you produce hydrogen. And that's taking advantage of electricity when the costs are low and stopping production when the costs are high, and taking a blended rate of electricity that is extremely competitive, having the ability to produce hydrogen at large scale during the times that electricity are available, complemented by some other things, that ultimately delivers a reduced cost of hydrogen molecule that makes it extremely competitive. Another example that we just made an investment of 20% of a project in Indiana, Wabash Valley Resources, using feedstock through a process that will deliver very competitive rates of hydrogen. It's a very different way to produce hydrogen than the utility example that I just mentioned. And there are many more. And it's this continuous effort to look for opportunities where you can achieve feedstock, whether that be from the utility or through some process that delivers hydrogen at the scale that you need, at the quantities that you need to supply it to the vehicles. And the beauty of hydrogen, of course, is that it's everywhere, right? So we talk about sources of fuel, and some countries are very privileged and benefit from having resources that allow for, to power under existing conditions, and some don't. And it's become a real issue in the world. And this is why governments are so interested in progressing energy, so that there's real resiliency in the world and you can produce needed energy sources anywhere where you are. And that's something that hydrogen in time will provide. And that's why there's so much investment, so much interest in seeing this technology progress. And that's what ultimately will provide benefit to this industry. So while we're in the early days, there are already ways to reduce the cost of ownership. And the question in terms of how is it regulated? Well, first and foremost, it's regulated by our customers. If you can't get the price of the fuel to meet the total cost of ownership models, you don't have a business. So the immediate check on whether this works or not is coming from the demand side.
But there's no universal price index around hydrogen, and there never will be, because it might be cheap to make, but it's bloody expensive to move. So unlike liquids, which are cheap to move, and the cost base is not heavily influenced by the location of the liquid, for hydrogen, it's the opposite.
right, Zubair?
Yeah, I would like to add one more thing about the calculation of TCO. So obviously, there's a lot of question about the cost of fuel, which is very justified. The other factor, if you talk to real customers and fleet owners, is maintenance cost. And so depending on the actual market, for example, I'm going to take did you know that for a refuse truck, for example, they do 1,200 to 1,600 pickups per day, I believe, depending on, the area. Full pedal down for 50 yards on the gas, full pedal down on the brake, and on and on and on. Do you know how many brake jobs they need to do on this truck? Like change the brakes, etc. It's anywhere between 6 to 8 times per year, right? Costs a lot of money. So this is just an example. So electrification, and obviously Brightspeed, what we do, but I'm sure others on this panel here also, is also a huge benefit for maintenance cost reduction, which also then create another factor for the TCO reduction, right? So fuel, maintenance, and then the drivers. The drivers, if they have a smooth ride and if it's safe, they love the truck. They are going to be like your best friends. If they don't, that's it. Your business stops. So I think there are other elements in the TCO that, you know, all of us, I'm sure, are considering. And so just want to add that point.
Great, thanks. A couple questions in thematically there, line two, and these are great. I think it's, as you are entrepreneurs in developing new technology and the new entrant to the market, talk a little bit, and maybe we'll start with you, Thomas, as a new entrant. There's certain advantages, there's certain challenges on coming into it. From your perspective, you know, you got to balance that scale, and how are you navigating that at Hyliion?
So I'll first share kind of my biggest surprise with this all was coming into this industry. I thought that I was going to be met with kind of people with, you know, a stiff arm of, hey, we don't want to hear it. You know, we've been doing this for a lot of years. We know how it's done. We don't need new entrants. It was the exact opposite. You know, working with you, TJ. I mean, TJ and I know each other well. Like, there's an easy way for organizations that have been here for a while to also work with newcomers into this space to really make an impact. And so I'd say that's the first thing that we can't lose, right? We need collaboration amongst the newcomers coming in, as well as the players who have been here who know how to get things done in this industry and do things the right way. And that's how we're going to see innovation happen. So let's not lose that. But then for us, you know, it's allowed us to really position ourselves as a disruptor, an innovative thought leader, which has then allowed us and the others on this panel to go out and raise the required capital needed to actually go do this. You know, let's just be totally honest. None of this is going to happen unless there's a significant amount of capital being put behind it to make this transition take place. I mean, these vehicles are expensive right now. The components going into them are very expensive. And that goes back to the initial comment of, you know, ultimately these vehicles are going to cost more than a diesel truck to get them rolled out in your fleets. But then we need to utilize the actual cost of electricity, the cost of fuel to drive down, you know, to being less than diesel in order to see a payback. And the only way we're going to hit those sort of levels of scale, the commodities of scale, is if all of us are working together to drive the cost of these components down to make it work. So it needs to be collaborative, but I think there's an awesome mix of kind of the people who have been here and been doing it for a great job for a while, combining with the newcomers like the ones sitting on this panel.
Right. Craig, one for you. I think just as, you know, what you're doing is hard. What all of you are doing is hard. How do you balance the expectations of your stakeholders, investors, customers, partners, suppliers, as you go through the process?
So for us, we look kind of new, but, you know, I've been involved in hydrogen since 2003. You can't see the scars, but believe me, we carry plenty from a world of commercializing fuel cell technologies where nobody was really interested. Nobody was counting carbon. Nobody gave a rat's about the emission from the diesel genset if it kept the backup power, you know, system going for the telecom towers or whatever. Right? So we learned how to develop products, innovate, optimize costs, and put a product in customers' hands they were willing to purchase to replace a diesel genset or a battery-based UPS or whatever. So this 18 years of pain and suffering has positioned us well to now leverage the technology we developed through that process to leverage that into a market that's now much more ready and willing and interested in fuel cell technology. And so we believe we have a really unique opportunity to become an overnight success after 18 years and deliver a very meaningful solution to a set of customers who really need it. They need zero-emission trucks. And for a lot of very high daily uptime use, you know, vehicle scenarios, hydrogen electric systems will be the answer. Whether it's us or somebody else, that doesn't really matter for us from that standpoint. How we balance the competing priorities, I've already explained. We rode a wave, you know, in Asia and then Europe and then the US for you know, the uptake of this technology. The wave hasn't really started in North America, frankly, but we're expecting it to build any time. We expect we'll be able to work with a pretty defined set of priorities so that, for example, Class 8 fuel cell truck from our standpoint is priority number one. The market needs it, we have it, so that is our priority.
Right. Pablo, I'd like to get your perspective too. As you scale the business, you're adding your distribution network, products testing, adding new people every day. Some of the challenges, obstacles, but opportunities that come from that as well.
Well, it's a multifaceted opportunity and challenge. The one thing that I'm extremely proud of in what we've been able to do in the last year is partner with leading dealer companies. Because this is so imperative ultimately in terms of as we deploy trucks into the marketplace, the ability to have state-of-the-art leading service with existing infrastructure, part supply, a culture of customer focus, responsiveness is absolutely key for customers. We talked about this. Some things are changing and other things are not, and uptime is everything. It also provides a huge impact and effect in terms of our ability to sell trucks, because these companies are very well established in their territories, and they're trusted. These are credible organizations. It allows us to spend more money in terms of development, engineering versus infrastructure to support the vehicles out in the field, which is very important in terms of how we deploy capital. We are adding very talented people every day at Nikola. I think the best kept secret at Nikola are the people. I mean, I would invite you all to visit us, see our Coolidge facility, visit us in Ulm, Germany, where we have a facility there through our joint venture partner Iveco. We are driving a culture that is based on strong values, great passion, innovation, and customer focus, and absolutely safety every single day, as we've been discussing here. Yeah, the challenges are the ones that we all face. We can't build trucks fast enough, right? There's supply chain issues that the entire world is facing. Not too far away from here, the port of LA is a complete logjam. You see ports in Asia the same. These are challenges that the industry faces. The great news for us is customers need trucks. They need trucks of any type right now. There's just a shortage of trucks. There's a shortage of drivers. This is why these solutions, aside from the benefits of zero emissions, is how do we help customers just do more with what they have? How do you drive up efficiency? How do you recruit more drivers? How do you get trucks in their hands after they've proven out the technology, they like it, and it meets their needs? So there's a lot of great work ahead, and I think we all are benefiting from a real tailwind here. This is not just a step change in technology. This is something, as Craig was saying, that customers need. They are demanding these solutions. They want to see them. They want to make sure that they're going to meet their needs. And as they do that, the adoption rate of this technology is going to be massive. I firmly believe that.
Right. And Patrick, maybe you can add on to that from a BYD perspective. So as BYD's entered the North American market, obviously the focus on product, but talk a bit about how you're supporting customers throughout the value chain. It's not just delivering a vehicle. What else are you doing? Where else is your focus?
Certainly. We definitely, as I mentioned earlier, I think for BYD, our advantage is deployment. We have vehicles in the field today. Like I mentioned, we have over almost 1,000 commercial electric vehicles between buses and trucks in North America. And globally, we have delivered nearly 100,000 battery electric commercial vehicles so far. What we want to do is to help and support our customers to be able to benefit from BYD's global experience, the lessons learned, the experience through generations of new design and product improvements here locally. And also, we've been focusing on building local product and service support network, working with partners and developing our own team to better support our products. As we continue to deploy more trucks and vehicles in the field, we learned that getting the supporting and service structure in place is crucial. This is definitely important for to build the customer confidence, just to continue to invest and grow their zero emission fleet. We definitely also share similar challenges, like other panelists mentioned. Eventually, we believe it requires collaboration from all the stakeholders, our supply chain, our partners, and also our customers, just to get the momentum going.
Great. So we have just a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we capture a few of the questions from the audience here. Very consistent question on residuals. Anybody want to put a residual on a 5-year vehicle right now? Or?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Let's talk
because
about it.
Every
That's the talk
Hyliion
over
truck, every Hyliion truck's a little platinum mine. I will absolutely buy it back from you.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
And these components have a lot longer lifespan to them than what we're seeing in a conventional vehicle today, right? So in the beginning, let's be honest, there is going to be a lot of risk. I mean, we saw this when, vehicles 10 years ago, initial natural gas trucks came out. There's a ton of question around residual value of these assets. It's going to be different with electric trucks, though. I think that's a guarantee. Big question mark is going to be the batteries, right? Do your batteries last to a point where you can actually continue to keep driving these things, or are you going to need to do a whole pack swap out? I think we're getting to a point where batteries are starting to last, life of vehicle. Is that what you guys are seeing as well?
For sure,
one
the
comment on
batteries.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Patrick has vast experience with the lifetime of the batteries in BEV. I'll make a very quick comment from our anecdotal evidence from fleets we've powered with fuel cells, that typically battery life is extended by 3 to 4 times if there's a fuel cell in the vehicle, compared to being a BEV only commercial vehicle, not personal vehicle, which is usually the batteries never see a deep discharge. But in commercial vehicles, the battery life is, not only is there a lot less battery in the vehicle, but the battery life's extended dramatically because you've got a constant onboard conditioning system in the fuel cell, keeping the battery happy. Sorry, Patrick.
Totally, I just build on that. I agree. I think even today we provide support and warranty for the battery, for the life of the vehicle. That's happening today. And moving forward, I think that's another point why it's important to get financial partners and even utility getting involved in the turnkey business model, because that would better leverage and also justify the residual value, especially on the battery side. When you replace your vehicle, you still have a battery pack that may have still the over 60 or 70% of the initial capacity. That's where you can better utilize the residual value of the batteries. So the entire value chain and the turnkey solution is crucial at this point, just to build better data and a better business model to justify the residual value. When we don't have enough field data today, how do we justify and come up with something that the customer is comfortable with in terms of residual value, not only on the vehicle, but also on the powertrain standpoint?
Great.
I completely agree with what Patrick said. First of all, we're all going to have to stand behind our products. We all are taking risks in what we do every day. And in the early days, we'll have to take some risks in terms of residual values and warranties. And ultimately, customers want a one-stop shop to address their vehicle concerns, maintenance, et cetera. We're working with 2 financial companies, and we're deep into the discussion on residual values, as was been noted here on the panel. When you look at the vehicles on a component-by-component basis, obviously you can build some estimates on residual values. There's a whole business that can exist with batteries after they have exhausted their life on the vehicles. That's probably a subject for a different panel. I'd love to get into that.
Eric, we have a new session idea for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there is value in that. And my hope and expectation is in time that these vehicles, fleets will be keeping them in their fleets for a longer period of time. That's important to make the TCO work. But from a durability standpoint, that's a great solution for a customer. And as that happens, the TCO, I'm sorry, the residual value should be strong. And yeah, so it'll be interesting.
There's obviously
Just-
one other comment about end of life. Do you think the demand for zero emission vehicles is going down?
No.
So from our standpoint, we're very comfortable to buy back vehicles.
Yeah, and we'll end on that note, but thank you to the panel. Great discussion. Thanks for the participation for the audience. So I think, Eric, a few final comments.